Greetings, students of astrology, and welcome back to the Lilly Lectures. I am William Lilly, and today we are looking at a first house matter from Christian astrology to answer a question that many may have pondered: the length and quality of one's life. This is most helpful for those that do not have access to their birth details for whatever reason and wish to know how long they might live, if any illness is approaching them, or which period in their life is likely to be the happiest. But before we begin, please remember to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our cosmic insights. Now let's address the question that has brought us here today. Can we determine whether someone is likely to live a long and healthy life using astrology? The answer is yes, and lies in the stars, my friends. Let's start with indications of good health or a long life by examining the following factors. In this question, you must consider if the sign rising at the time of the question, its ruling planet, and the position of the moon are all free from negative influences. Specifically, you should check if the Lord of the Ascendant is not in conjunction with the Sun, and if it is, not in square, opposition, or conjunction with the lords of the 8th, 12th, 6th, or 4th houses. It should be direct in motion, in essential dignity, swift in movement, or angular, especially if it is located in the first house, as it is most favorable in this context, 10th house, 11th house, or 9th house. Additionally, if it forms a positive aspect with Jupiter, Venus, or the Sun, or if it is positioned in the planetary terms of Jupiter or Venus, it indicates good health and a long life for the person asking the question. On the other hand, an unfortunate lord of the ascendant or the ascendant itself, or the moon afflicted in malefic houses, suggests impending harm. The aforementioned positive indications argue against that negative outcome. Just as you consider the lord of the ascendant, you must also consider the ascendant itself, along with the aspects it receives, whether good or bad, and from which planet or planets, as well as the houses these planets rule. It is generally accepted that if the Lord of the Ascendant is under the Sun's beams or heading towards conjunction with it, which is worse than when it is separating, or if the Moon is weak and afflicted by any of the planets that govern the 8th or 6th houses, and if the South Node, Saturn, or Mars are present in the Ascendant or 7th house, in a weakened or retrograde state, or if there are any fixed stars with strong influence on the rising degree, or in the same degree as the Lord of the Ascendant, or in conjunction with the Moon or the afflicting planet, then it can be concluded that the person asking the question will not live a long life. Instead, they are likely to encounter some form of danger or misfortune, depending on the nature of the significator and the houses they govern. Now, to look at the timing of potential accidents or misfortunes, we must take into account various factors. Check if the Lord of the Ascendant is heading towards combustion, opposition, or conjunction with the Lord of the 8th or 4th house. Note the degree of separation between them and the signs they are in. If the gap is around 8 degrees in a common sign, it signifies months. In a fixed sign, it represents years, and in a mutable sign, it indicates weeks. Remember to consider other significators as well. Examine the position of the moon and malefic planets. Observe the degrees of separation between the moon and any malefic planet or the lords of the 6th or 8th houses. Take note of the signs, their nature, quality, and the houses they are in to understand the potential misfortune. If there is a malefic planet in the ascendant, calculate the degrees the cusp of the house lacks in comparison to the unfortunate planet's degree. Alternatively, if the afflicting planet is in the 7th house, determine the degrees the ascendant lacks in comparison to its true opposition. Use the dimension of degrees in movable, common, or fixed signs to compute the time of death, sickness, or misfortune. If the lord of the ascendant is primarily afflicted by the lord of the sixth in the sixth house, or if the lord of the ascendant is approaching combustion in the sixth house, it suggests that the querent will experience numerous and prolonged illnesses, likely until their death. This judgment becomes more certain if the lord of the ascendant, the lord of the eighth, and the moon are all positioned in the sixth house. If the lord of the ascendant, the ascending sign, or the moon is heavily afflicted or affected by the lord of the eighth or a planet afflicting the significators from the eighth house, it indicates that the current or upcoming illness will lead to the querent's demise, signifying an approaching death or imminent threat of death. However, if the lord of the ascendant sign, or the moon is primarily afflicted by the lords of other houses, assess the nature of the house or houses governed by the afflicting planets to determine the misfortune. The source or discovery of this misfortune will be indicated by something or someone associated with the house where the afflicting planet is positioned. In such cases, misfortune rather than death should be inferred. The specific nature of the misfortune can be determined based on the qualities associated with certain fixed stars. For example, Mars-like stars indicate sudden bodily ailments, fevers, quarrels, and murders, while Saturn-like stars suggest quartan fevers, which is a type of malaria, poverty, accidental injuries, etc. Stars with Mercury-like qualities indicate consumption, madness, deceit through false evidence or writings, while moon-like stars signify tumults, commotions, wind-related disorders, and danger by water. Stars with sun-like qualities indicate envy from authorities, eye-related injuries, etc. Jupiter-like stars suggest oppression by domineering priests or gentlemen, and Venus-like stars indicate prejudice by a woman, diseases like the pox, involvement in gambling, cards, dice, and promiscuity. A word of caution, dear students. Avoid hastily declaring death based on a single piece of evidence. Even if the lord of the ascendant is heading towards combustion, check if Jupiter or Venus cast a sextile or trine aspect to the lord of the ascendant before it reaches perfect combustion or any other affliction. If such an aspect occurs, it suggests that either medicine or the strength of one's constitution will counteract the malignant influence or alleviate part of the misfortune. However, when multiple rules mentioned above converge towards the prediction of death, you can be bolder in your judgment. Nevertheless, when it comes to determining the exact time of death, it is wise to exercise caution and refrain from such judgments as much as possible. However, if the significators mentioned above are afflicted as previously described, it may indicate that the person inquiring is not likely to live a long life and will experience various miseries and calamities. This knowledge is especially valuable for those seeking long-term leases, offices, or any arrangement involving theirs or another's life. It can also assist individuals in preventing the natural consequences of their own tendencies or inclinations. Next, we are going to look at the most favorable place in which the querent should direct their affairs or where they may live most happily. The 12 houses are divided into the east, west, north, and south quarters of the sky. The first house cusp marks the beginning of the east and is referred to as the east angle. From the degree of the first house to the degree or cusp of the 10th house comprises the 12th, 11th, and 10th houses, which are in the east and inclined towards the south. The region from the cusp of the 10th house to the cusp of the 7th house includes the 9th, 8th, and 7th houses, forming the south quarter, which tends towards the west. The area from the degree of the 7th house to the cusp of the 4th house encompasses the 6th, 5th, and 4th houses, representing the west and leaning towards the north. Finally, from the degree of the 4th house to the degrees of the ascendant lie the third, second, and first houses, forming the north quarter, which inclines towards the east. After examining the different quarters of the sky, determine in which quarter you find the planet that promises the querent the most good. Look for the presence of Jupiter, Venus, the Moon, and the part of Fortune, or any combination of these favorable factors. Direct your affairs towards that quarter of the sky. If the part of Fortune and the Moon are free from combustion and other afflictions, go in the direction indicated by them. However, if Jupiter or Venus happen to be lords of the 8th, 12th, or 6th houses, which can sometimes bring misfortune, avoid the quarter of the sky they are in. Instead, focus on the part of Fortune, the Moon, and the Lord of the Ascendant. Try to steer away from the quarter where the malefic planets are present, particularly if they indicate mischief. In contrast, if Mars or Saturn is the Lord of the Ascendant, 2nd house, 10th house, or 11th house, and they are essentially strong, they may prove beneficial. In general, if the querent wishes to live where they can enjoy good health, consider the sign and quarter of the sky where the Lord of the Ascendant and the Moon are located. Determine which of them is stronger and forms a more favorable aspect with the ascending degree. In that case, head towards that quarter of the sky for the sake of well-being. If the querent seeks guidance on where to go to attain wealth or fortune, examine the placement of the Lord of the 2nd house, the part of Fortune, and their dispositor, or any combination of these factors. The quarter of the sky where they are well fortified indicates the most advantageous direction for pursuing financial gain. This topic will be addressed further in subsequent judgments. To determine the best part of the querent's life, we need to examine the angles of the sky where the fortunate and promising planets are positioned. In this method of judgment, each house is usually assigned a period of 5 years, although it can be more or less depending on the indications of the significators regarding life or death, although 5 years is commonly assigned. Start with the 12th house and move sequentially to the 11th, 10th, 9th, and so on until the ascendant. For example, if Jupiter or Venus is in the 11th or 10th house, it suggests that the person has lived happily from the age of 5 to 15 during their youth. If these planets are in the 8th or 7th house, it indicates a contented period from 20 to 30 years of age. If Jupiter or Venus is in the 6th, 5th, or 4th house, it suggests a good period after the middle age, from 30 to 45. If you find Jupiter or Venus in the 3rd, 2nd, or 1st house, then their best days or greatest happiness will be in old age, from 45 to 60. If the significators of life are very strong and indicate a long life, you can add 1 year to each house, indicating the possibility of the querent living beyond 60 years, until 70 or more. Lastly, observe the separation of the Lord of the Ascendant and the Moon at the time of the question. Note from which planet they are separated and by what aspect. The separation indicates the manner of previous accidents that have occurred before the question. The next application reveals what can be expected in the future. By considering the house or houses ruled by the planet or planets from which the separation occurred, you can discern the nature, person, quality, and matter of the past event. If the aspect was negative, it suggests an unfavorable outcome, and if it was positive, it indicates a favorable outcome. By looking at the quality of the next aspect through application and the well-being and position of the planet or planets involved, you can determine the nature, magnitude, and timing of the next forthcoming accidents and events that will affect the querent. In closing, while astrology offers insights into one's potential lifespan and challenges, remember that life is a complex interplay of many factors. Use this knowledge wisely, and it can assist you in making informed decisions and understanding the natural consequences of your choices. Thank you for joining me today at the Lilly Lectures. If you found this insightful, please share it and leave your questions or comments below. Until next time, keep looking to the stars for guidance. I'm William Lilly, and this is Christian Astrology.